You would throw yourself in front of a moving car for your child without a second thought. And sometimes, when the day feels endless and your body is running on nothing, and someone needs you again for the 100th time before noon, a small, terrible thought floats through your mind. I want my life back. And the moment that thought appears, shame lands on top of it like a brick. Because what kind of mother thinks that? A real one. That's what kind. There is a particular kind of pain that lives inside women who are deeply devoted mothers and also deeply exhausted human beings. It does not make the headlines. It does not get talked about at family dinners. It barely gets whispered between close friends. It is the pain of loving someone completely and also feeling like that love is slowly erasing you. Not because your child is bad, not because your life is wrong, but because nobody prepared you for what it would actually feel like to disappear into someone else's needs. Every single day, while the world applauds you for it, you are supposed to be grateful, and you are. You know how lucky you are. You have told yourself that 1,000 times. But gratitude and grief can exist in the same chest, and the grief doesn't mean you love your child any less. It means you were a whole person before this, and that person is still somewhere inside you, confused and quiet and very, very tired. Let me tell you what actually happens psychologically to a woman when she becomes a mother. Before the baby, you had something. It wasn't perfect. Maybe it wasn't even that exciting, but it was yours. Your time, your thoughts, your identity. Even your worst days before motherhood belonged to you. And then, almost overnight, something shifts. Your body is no longer fully yours. Your sleep is no longer yours. Your attention, your energy, your emotional bandwidth, all of it now flows in one direction, toward this small, beautiful, demanding human who has no idea what they are asking of you. And the love you feel for them makes you give it all. Willingly. You would do it again. But here is the part that nobody names. When you give everything, constantly, without replenishment, without rest, without being truly seen by the adults around you, something inside you starts to ache. Not because something is wrong with you, because something is wrong with how we set motherhood up. You were handed the hardest job in the world and told to be grateful it's unpaid. You were handed a role that requires physical endurance, emotional intelligence, crisis management, nutritional expertise, psychological attunement, and infinite patience, and then asked why you seem so tired. You were told, in 1,000 subtle ways, that the fact that you love your child means you should not struggle, as if love cancels out exhaustion, as if devotion is the same thing as being okay. It is not, and this is where it gets heavier. Because the women who struggle most are often the ones who care the most. The mother who is half present, emotionally checked out, who doesn't torture herself with every decision. She is not drowning the way you are. You are drowning because you feel everything, because you take it all seriously, because somewhere deep inside you is a voice that says, "This child deserves the best version of me," and you are trying to give that even when you have nothing left. That's not weakness. That is the specific suffering of someone who loves too carefully, in a world that does not make space for that. But here is where the real wound is. It is not just the tiredness. It is not just the overstimulation, the touched-out feeling, the mental load, the invisible weight. The deepest part is this: you do not recognize yourself anymore. You look in the mirror, and the woman looking back is someone who has completely restructured her entire existence around another person. And she loves that person, but she has also quietly lost the thread back to herself. You used to have opinions about things outside of feeding schedules and sleep regressions. You used to have a sense of humor that wasn't just about surviving the day. You used to feel interesting to yourself. And now, some days, you feel like a function, a provider of things, an endlessly available resource. And the thought that floats up, "I want my old life back," is not really about your baby. It is about you. It is a grief signal. It is your inner self asking, quietly, desperately, "Does anyone remember that I exist?" This is the turning point, because once you understand that, everything shifts. You are not a bad mother having bad thoughts. You are a whole person experiencing a kind of grief that doesn't get a name. Psychologists call it matrescence, the identity transformation a woman goes through when she becomes a mother. It is as dramatic, neurologically and emotionally, as adolescence. Your entire sense of self is being reorganized. And just like adolescence, it is disorienting, uncomfortable, and full of contradictions. You can love where you're going and still mourn where you came from. You can be fully committed to your child and still miss the version of you that had her own thoughts, her own mornings, her own slow cups of coffee. Both things are true. Neither cancels the other out. So let's talk about what this actually means for you. The resentment you sometimes feel toward the endless demands, toward your partner who seems to move through the world more freely, toward your own life that seems to have contracted. That resentment is not proof that you are ungrateful. It is proof that your needs have been invisible for too long. Resentment is not the problem. It is the messenger. It shows up when a person has been giving without receiving, caring without being cared for, holding without being held. It is your nervous system waving a flag. The question is not, how do I stop feeling this? The question is, what does this feeling need me to know? Usually, what it needs you to know is simple and uncomfortable. You are not okay. You have not been okay for a while. And somewhere along the line, you started performing fine so convincingly that even the people who love you stopped checking. Here is the gentle truth. You do not have to choose between loving your child and being honest about how hard this is. You do not have to pretend that every hard day is secretly a blessing. You do not have to feel guilty for grieving a version of yourself that deserved more softness than this season of life has offered her. What you do have to do is stop treating your own needs like they are a luxury you haven't earned yet. Because the cost of never addressing them, never admitting them out loud, never making even small space for the woman underneath the mother, is not just burnout. It is a quiet, creeping disconnection from everything, including the child you love. The mother who occasionally admits she is struggling does not love her child less. She is actually more present for them because she is still real, still a person, not a ghost of someone who gave everything and kept nothing. So if today is one of those days, if you kissed your baby goodnight and then sat in the dark and thought, I love you and I am so tired and I am not sure who I am anymore, I want you to hear this. That thought does not make you broken. It makes you honest. And the world needs more mothers who are honest with themselves, because honest mothers raise children who learn that having feelings is not the same as being a failure. You are not a bad mother because motherhood is hard. You are a human being inside a very human experience, and you are allowed to struggle and love at the same time. You do not have to earn the right to rest. You do not have to justify needing things. You do not have to become someone who doesn't feel this deeply. You just have to stop being the last person on your own list. That woman who misses herself, she is not gone. She has just been waiting for you to remember that she matters too.